Good afternoon, good evening, good day to everyone. Welcome to another stream. Today we're going to be talking about the most recent Dark Side of the Ring episode, the one regarding Owen Hart. Oh, I apologize about that. And we have some guests with us today. As usual, we have Cousin Cheeto, D Jose, and now we have Jericho. All of us have seen the episode. We've got lots of things to say. But first of all, before we progress with this, I would like to hand it over to Jose. He's got something to say about Shad Gaspard. Got some more news.
We would like to give our thoughts and condolences to Shad Gaspard and his family. They found his body last night out at sea at 2 in the morning, and there's really not much to say career-wise about Shad Gaspard because WWE they put he and JTG together, and they were entertaining as hell. WWE does what they do. They broke them up. Both of them went nowhere. Should have been the tag team champs, but Shad Gaspard, his final act was that of a hero, a real man, and a father, telling the Coast Guards to save his kid. And man, he once stopped a robbery. So yeah, Shad Gaspard goes to show not all heroes wear capes. He will be missed.
Yes, he will. I personally know that he is a good person. I got not much to say about him as a wrestler, unfortunately, because he wasn't around long enough and he didn't leave a big enough mark. But we all still remember him, so he did leave some sort of mark. Before we progress with the show, any Jericho and Cheeto, would you like to say anything about Shad Gaspar? Jericho?
I don't really have anything memorable or personal to say about him. Obviously, I remember his run with JTG.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually watching a little clip. It was like a little DX skit with with them in Crime Time, and the skit where they had to scalp tickets, and Shawn Michaels says, "Don't worry, I got this. I speak jive." So
Oh
that
my
was
God.
that was actually pretty good to watch that, get a kick out of that. But yeah, man, just really sad news. As we said, I mean, if you're gonna go out, you might as well save your son while you're doing it. So, in that situation, it's very unfortunate. Hopefully, it brings awareness because I mean, obviously that stuff does happen. You can be taken in at any notice. You know, don't have
Bef-
overconfidence going out in the water, unfortunately.
Before I pass it on to Cheeto, do you remember Emiliano Sala, Jericho, the story of
Oh
him?
yeah,
That
yeah.
it's similar, very similar. That's the first thing I thought of when I heard about Shad Gaspar. Anyway, Cheeto, you got anything to say, my friend?
I mean, just that from what I remember back in the day, everyone said that he is one of the nicest guys you could ever meet. He's one of those gentle giant type people. I mean, we all heard the story, and I think even DH mentioned it about stopping a robbery at one point. I mean, and then you save your kid. I mean, as a father myself, to my children, and of course Jericho down here.
We'll figure that out sometime.
That's just an inside joke. Anyway, but you put your lives on the line for your kid, no matter what. And I mean, it's unfortunate, but I mean, he did what any father probably any father would do, and that's it. I mean, professionally, his WWE run was lackluster, but that's only because they didn't give him a chance to shine. He was actually pretty talented, I thought, from everything I saw. And I mean, at least he went out. At least he didn't, at least he went out in a heroic and good way. I mean, this stuff happens. People die, and it sucks, and it really should never happen. But you leave your mark where one of my sayings that I love to say is that you climb for the heights, or you reach the heights you climb for, and you leave the splash you die for. And I think he left it, especially with his son. I think he left a really big splash in his life.
Yeah,
And I know that's a little morbid now that I think about it, but I mean, you get what I mean.
Well,
Yeah, we get.
we give our condolences to the families, and we hope they get through this. And I'm sure they'll have a lot of support around them during these hard times. So let's now go on to some more somber things, and that being Owen Hart. I've seen the episode twice now, and for me, it wasn't really knowing about Owen Hart. I've always known him being a bit of a prankster. I've heard about all these stories of Owen Hart in various shoot interviews prior to this. But I was more interested to know the aftermath, in my opinion. We can get to that now. We can get to that later on. But just hearing these initial stories about Owen Hart initially coming into the WWE, seeing him being very agile, doing flips, landing on his feet all the time, being a technician too. He was basically Bret Hart with blonde hair. They look so much alike. It's unreal. I put Owen Hart in the same bracket as people like Brandon Lee, River Phoenix. Several people who were just on the cusp. Anton Yelchin. People on the cusp of being somebody really big and famous, and they just died before that time. You could even say Heath Ledger possibly too. And it's really unfortunate. Did you first of all, I don't even know where to start with this particular episode. We can start with the beginning initially. It was a well-structured episode, very somber. There's a lot of stuff we already knew, but did you guys initially like this episode for what it was? Did it satisfy your needs?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was very good. I really think that these guys, they do a really great job going into detail over things like this. As sad as the episode was, I thought the production was well. I thought that, all the interviews were very emotional, very candid, very honest thoughts. It was tough to see D'Lo Brown and Jim Cornette and Jim Ross and Martha have to go into detail about everything, but we'll get into that.
Yeah.
It was just
Jericho?
I mean, obviously, I'm too young really to have watched Owen, as that live. But from what I've seen, whether it be reviews, documentaries like this, whether it be matches on the network, I mean, everything I've seen from him, I mean, it's just it really is remarkable. And like you said, I mean, basically the spitting image of Bret. I mean, obviously, being in the tag team, that would be good. Their match at WrestleMania 10, and
Great
obviously,
match, by the way.
and obviously Bret putting Owen over, which showed just how much that Bret, valued him, not only to sacrifice, his well-being and not well-being, but standing in the company, taking a loss at WrestleMania. But I mean, it covered all the bases. It really didn't miss anything significant. My takeaway from it is obviously, I mean, everybody knows about this story. Everybody knows that the show went on. Everybody knows, that he tragically dies, and obviously the aftermath of it. But my real takeaway from it was just listening to all those perspectives, and specifically Martha Hart, because I mean, obviously, we understand her perspective, and we know all that's happened with the legal proceedings and the aftermath of the tragedy. But she's not a person that really uses that platform or uses her name to try to slander. Regardless of her thoughts, she doesn't really put those thoughts out in the public about what happened, and it's I won't say refreshing, but it's very eye opening to listen to that and to hear the side from the not only the Hart family, but the people who live with Owen.
It is a shame we never got we never heard from Bret Hart because he was in earlier episodes. Cousin Cheeto, did you overall like this particular episode?
I did. I mean, it brought some things into perspective about the tragedy and a little bit of the aftermath. A lot of things about Owen is I started watching wrestling in late 97, early 98. So I am old enough to remember and watched Owen. However, I didn't really I watched WCW mostly. So Owen was kind of not really on my radar so much because I wasn't watching the WWF back when Owen was in the up and coming ranks. I do agree that Owen would have been one of the top talents. And honestly, although Bret Hart is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, I think Owen was better. Watching matches,
he has more charisma, as well. He also has more charisma as well.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Bret Hart, but I really, really like watching Owen's matches, especially with Bret and with people that he's used to wrestling with. I mean, the dude could throw down with a match, and they say I think even Cornette, I think, I might be wrong, but Cornette even said, if, the next year, Eddie Guerrero, Perry Saturn, Chris Benoit, I mean, all these younger, Chris Jericho, all these guys were coming in to the WWE, and, those would have been people that Owen could have really worked with. Well, the problem was that Owen was too good of a wrestler for the current WWE. He couldn't carry, guys like Triple H wasn't even that big back. He couldn't carry Stone Cold after his injury. He couldn't carry The Rock.
He almost killed. Let's be honest. He almost killed Stone Cold Steve Austin.
He did.
And that tarnished his reputation, in my opinion.
Oh, of course. And especially, you can only imagine backstage. Yeah, I believe you speaking of Owen.
No, go on, Jericho. Sorry.
That's all I was going to say, is just that I was agreeing, and then I was clarifying that you were speaking about Owen's reputation being tarnished rather than Steve Austin's.
Yeah, Owens for sure.
I'm sorry. I just really think that we're, and I think it's Marcus Wesley, however you guys know him. He did tell me that, apparently Triple H is, the moniker, the Game, that was supposed to be Owen's story. Like, Owen was supposed to become the Game.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It was going to be the Game, Owen Hart, and then he died because they were going to get rid of the blue blazer thing, and then they were going to, and that, as I said, unconfirmed. I'm just going off of what I've heard, and I don't remember where he said it, but it makes a lot of sense because,
yep.
I mean, he is. If you think of the Game, it would be. If you think of the Game, it would be Owen Hart because he is the total package.
And you want to know the crazy thing?
Sorry.
At the end of the day, Owen didn't give a shit about wrestling. Owen gave a fuck about, two things: having enough money and providing for his family. That's what he cared about most. He was like, I don't care. I just want to be able to buy a plot of land, build a house, and go home to my kids. That was all he wanted to do at the end of the day. And it's sad that he never got to do that.
Well, I'm not sure if you guys realize that we're 3 days away from the anniversary of his
years,
death.
and it doesn't feel like
And now, remember I told you earlier in the pre-show that I had something to say. And what that is that the 23rd of May is also my birthday. Owen Hart died on my birthday, which is when I found out, which I couldn't believe at the time. I was so shocked, but I never saw it happen. But for every time they mention 23rd of May, it just hits me because it's my fucking birthday, man. It's just unbelievable that would happen on my birthday, that he died. And every time my birthday comes up, it's going to be Owen Hart Day. It's going to be the day he died, and it's such a sad thing that had to happen. But let's progress with the story now. One of the things that has become quite prominent in the entire series of Dark Side of the Ring is one particular person. Well, not all the episodes, but majority of the episodes. I wouldn't say he was in the I forgot his name now. Anyway, that's Vince McMahon. Yeah, Vince McMahon has been pretty much a prominent character in nearly every episode of Dark Side of the Ring, apart from New Jack. That's the guy whose name I forgot. And I've never liked Vince McMahon. He's one of the reasons why I stopped watching the WWE, and this just added to it. Vince McMahon, he never really learns until somebody fucking dies. And so many people die in various ways in that fucking company for him to fucking learn. I'm glad they're not abseiling fucking wrestlers from the fucking scaffolding anymore. It's a stupid thing to do anyway. These guys are wrestlers, not fucking abseilers. And then they give him, and then Martha, she shows something which, for me, the episode came alive when she showed the carabiner, which was which Owen Hart had to use, which was designed for sails on boats, not for fucking abseiling. And this thing with a tiny little clip is designed in a way that after 6 pounds of pressure, it clips, it comes apart, because it's not supposed to hold for too much. You're supposed to be able to remove it, which is the reason why they put him on this harness in the first place, because they wanted him just to come off and start fighting. Remove it immediately with no fuss. So for the sake of convenience for that particular factor, they inconvenienced his fucking safety.
Yeah, and they told him, didn't they tell him, like, don't pull the cord or something like that? And he never did.
They told him not to pull the cord, which, and I do believe he would have done that if he was told not to pull it. But considering what was holding him was something so minuscule regarding the tension of what it needs to hold. And they were not using proper equipment because they wanted to save money and be more efficient with the timing of him coming down. Well, it costed his life. I mean, I was absolutely gobsmacked. I never knew about this particular factor. When you guys came across this carabiner thing and you saw the tools that were used, which led to his death, how did you feel? I'll start with you, Cousin Cheeto.
I mean, it's absolute bullshit. I mean, here's the thing. Like you say, oh, you shouldn't be coming from... Sting did the same thing, but the thing is that they made sure that WCW made sure that he was safe.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
I'm not saying that, like, did you have to do it? No, not at all.
But does he want to do it? Sorry for interrupting, but does he want to do it? And by what Martha was saying, he didn't want to do it. And if you don't want to do it, that shouldn't have been your fucking job description. You're a wrestler, not a guy fucking abseiling from scaffoldings.
I know that's a big point, is that if he didn't want to do it, he shouldn't have had to have been. Yeah. But I mean, like, because they basically wanted something that was convenient for him to unlatch quickly. And whereas in WCW, when you were watching Sting do it, man, you saw him fumble with that thing for 3 minutes before he got off it, or he didn't even bother taking it off, and he just started hitting people with a bat.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you don't justify decreased safety for increased entertainment or whatever. Like, I don't know.
He had his hand on the rope, to hold the harness as well. When you were seeing Sting coming down, he was in control of his fall. Fucking Owen Hart had this thing on his fucking back. He wasn't able to hold on to anything. Anyway,
and that's also another point is, if something did happen with Sting, he at least had access to the rope or the bungee or whatever, so he could grab onto it. I mean, they wanted the Blue Blazer to fly down, and it was just ridiculous and stupid. Like, and it's only because they didn't know what to do with him. You can look at it from a business point where it's like they just didn't know what to do with this dummy. Like this dumb gimmick that and it's just like and
they were punishing him as well. They weren't even giving him. They gave him the Blue Blazer gimmick just to rip on him, which is what the WWE do. I mean, instead of trying to help people, they punish you. They love punishing people. It's just, and they punished him in a way which he didn't deserve. Jose, what would you like to say about discovering this carabiner?
I have a theory on all of this, and y'all might agree. Okay, do you think if Vince never screwed Bret Hart, would this shit have happened? If, like, Bret and Vince would have ended on good terms, would this shit have happened? I don't think so. Because Bret could have stepped in and said, no, you're not going to do that to my brother. He's fucking Owen Hart. He's a great wrestler. And, but with this whole rigging thing, they couldn't have spent more money. I mean, at the time, they had more money than God, and they couldn't have put an additional $1 million in to get better equipment for him. Come on now. That is some crazy shit. When I saw the equipment, I'm like, there's no way he would have survived that. With as tiny as that thing was. Yeah.
I understand. Jericho?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the whole situation is just a fucking farce, and it's a farce that cost a man his life. It cost, the children their father, and a wife their husband. I mean, it's just disgraceful. I didn't know about the carabiner, aspect of it, but I mean, if you're gonna have that aspect of it, I don't understand how the man can't control his own his like you were saying, how he can't control his own fall, how you have no control over that. I don't understand how you, as a professional being hired by another professional company, can implement a device that, like you said, can be activated with 6 pounds of force. I mean, I put more force on my controller sometimes, and you're hanging a man from 10 stories up in the air at the top of an arena over a fucking wrestling ring. And I mean, I just I mean, honestly, I mean, obviously it's devastating, but it's nonsensical and it's asinine. And like D Jose was saying, I mean, if they would have just spent $1 million more, or however much, and the sad thing is, if they would have had to spend $1 million more, they would have never done this bullshit. Because Vince McMahon is such a penny pincher that he would have never done something as stupid as that.
Yeah.
I mean, to the aspect of if Rhett was there, or if the screw job never happened, if any of that would have happened, I mean, we can't. I'm not going to go into that, and I'm not going to go into the aspect of if he pulled the line or anything like that. I mean, he could have. Cognitive dissonance happens. I mean, there obviously we'll never know, and that's just pure speculation anyway. But the one thing that I found that was interesting is getting the interview from the referee that was in the ring and could feel him, going against his body. And what I hadn't heard is that the ref had his hand on the ropes, and that the ropes jolted like out of his hand and were like shaking after obviously Owen fell.
Yeah, shit like that is fucked, man. When you hear Jim Ross talking about the blur and stuff like that, when he sees a blur as King nudged him, and
that's go ahead, sorry.
Hearing Jim Cornette, break down and be like, okay, Owen's last like selfless act was basically telling Jimmy Corderas to move.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's what broke me the most, was seeing Cornette just damn near break down and just lose his shit, because all this could have easily been prevented.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. It
could have. Now,
go ahead.
Sorry, go on. I just want to progress. Go on. You want to finish saying something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say just how you were saying with Cornette. Putting it in another perspective of how Cornette was saying that JR is literally having to put a voice to the story as a man's dying right in front of him. And I mean, finally, obviously understanding why it couldn't have happened, but it would have been great to have Lawler's perspective in this documentary.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you're still with the WWE.
Yeah. Oh no. I mean, obviously, circumstances.
But it's good to hear it from Jim Ross, which is. But this is the part which always. I mean, this killed me way back. When he actually died, that the show fucking went on. I couldn't believe it. The fucking show went on. Yeah. I mean, something like that. The phrase. Sorry, go on.
My thing is like, okay, the thing with the cops, why couldn't the cops step in and stop the show? That's what I always wondered to this day. I'm like, where were the police at with this? That's a crime scene. You tell everybody, get the fuck out of there. Go home. Yeah, WWE's going to take a hit from this, but a man just died. You don't go on with the show. I don't care who you are, what you've done.
I was about to say, the show goes on mentality is stupid. We're not talking about broken ring ropes here. We're not talking about, something like that. Maybe a damaged light bulb and half the arena is in darkness. Nothing like that. Yeah, we're talking about someone fucking dying. The show doesn't go on. It's over. The show is fucking over. These wrestlers shouldn't be asked to be put in a situation having to perform after their fucking friend has just been killed. And it was such a bad move by Vince McMahon, but it doesn't surprise me. He just wants to act like nothing's going wrong, even though he's just had Jim Ross has just informed the whole world that fucking Owen Hart's died. I mean, what was he thinking?
I also have to interject. True class and professionalism by JR to get your shit together in 10 seconds. Wow. That is still the most unbelievable thing I think I've ever seen from Jim Ross, was having to get the update from fucking Bucky Beaver telling him that Owen died, and then he goes, you're back on in 10, 9, and he had to get his shit together in 10 seconds.
Well, I'll say this about the WWE. Their veteran commentators, Michael Cole, obviously, has to be mentioned too. They know how to keep their shit together when it comes to these things, and unfortunately they've witnessed too many of these things, more than they should. But what do you guys think of Vince McMahon continuing the show after Owen Hart died? I'll start with you, Jericho.
I mean, it just fully reinforces the sentiment that he's a fucking sociopath. But unfortunately, at least in this day and age, I think you have to when you get to a state of business like he has. You know, with this Dark Side of the Ring series, you know, you've had the stuff about you know, you've had the incident with David Schultz where he tells David Schultz allegedly to go out there and, you know, rough Stossel up, and then as soon as it gets to be a problem, he lets him go. You have the allegations that he basically paid off the investigators for the Nancy Argentino murder. You have this what's gone on. You have, I mean, obviously you have the steroid trial. I mean, Vince McMahon has shown his true colors on multiple occasions. I can admire what he's done. I can admire the content that he's produced and that has been brought to my television screens from his paycheck and from his, you know, from his business. But as a human being, I mean, obviously he's quite morally reprehensible.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's gonna be a special place in hell for Vince McMahon when he goes. I really believe that. I mean, like Jericho just said, you know, I can admire everything that the man has done to bring us, you know, quality moments like Hulk Hogan Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 6, Randy Savage's retirement match at WrestleMania 7, you know, The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25. Vince has given us so many great moments, and he will go down undoubtedly as the greatest wrestling promoter of all time. But Vince McMahon, the human being, I honestly don't have any respect for that man at all whatsoever.
I have to. I don't mean to throw a span in the works. I slightly disagree. Those great moments, even though he made those shows, those great moments were made by those wrestlers.
By the wrestlers, yeah.
Those wrestlers made those particular moments, as far as I was concerned. And Vince McMahon never paid those guys their dues. Look at all these famous people living in squalor and shit or have died young. That's what Vince McMahon has fucking brought. He's used and abused these motherfuckers. Don't give them breaks. Don't let them see their family. Don't do shit. You make the independent contractors whose lives are totally controlled by the business is fucking terrible.
To quote Bret Hart said it better than any of us could have ever said it. Vince McMahon treats his shit like a circus where the wrestlers are circus animals. You know, they'll put you out to use, and then once they're done with you, they take you out in the back and they kill you. And that's pretty much what Vince has done with a lot of guys' careers.
Yeah. And so I have no anything towards that man. I mean, the thing with Nancy Argentino, the guy's got no moral compass whatsoever. And even when this whole fucking coronavirus thing has happened, you know, I mean, nothing is more intimate than fucking wrestling when it comes to show business. And yet he still goes on, makes it an essential business, forcing people to possibly get infected because he still wants to keep. He just can't let it go. He genuinely can't. He's reprehensible. He is, you know, Donald Trump with muscles. You know, I've said this before. He very much reminds me of that. When that reporter mentioned something to him, he said he didn't like the tone of a voice. That's something fucking Donald Trump would say. You know, it's just deflection.
Oh, I do recall that, yeah.
Just total deflection. You're not answering the question. Something tragic has happened, and now you're going to have a go at her. Motherfucker, you're in this shit. Leave that reporter alone. Answer the fucking question. But he just deflects it and gets all defensive when one of his employees has died on his fucking watch. You know, I'm really, really upset by that. Sorry, Roberto, do you have anything to say?
I mean, I agree with you guys on all accounts, especially the fact that, you know, Vince McMahon is by far probably one of the most despicable people on the planet. I mean, the way he abuses his employees, the way he just assumes that they're going to put there's one thing if someone is putting their body on the line and damaging their body because they do. But Vince as an owner of a business, you don't let that happen. You know, like Vince is letting it happen. These people die young because Vince is letting it happen. What kind of product are you making if it's at the expense of someone's life? Like, and I agree 100% with you, Zam, is that no, the moments that are made, did Vince have a hand in some of that? Yes. But did Vince McMahon write all the stories and
no?
And did he find all the talent? Hell no. He writes the checks. He interjects himself where he doesn't belong. And yes, did he have some good ideas along the way? Yes, but that does not redeem some of the arrogant bullshit that he's pulled through on some of these wrestlers. You know, I mean, yeah, working through Corona. Oh, wrestlers are essential. The fuck? Like,
yeah, the fuck they are.
Yeah, no. Like you cannot sit there and tell me that professional wrestlers are essential. No, they're not. I mean, you just don't want to take the hit in the checkbook. You want to keep the ratings up, and I'm sorry, like, you know what? I don't give a fuck. Air documentaries every week on your, from your WWE network on, every week for Raw and SmackDown. You
have
like,
hundreds of thousands of hours of footage. You could easily make Raw and SmackDown like the best of for God knows how long until this shit passes.
You know what? Go back and do a Attitude Era recap, and play whole shows of Raw.
I wouldn't even do that. I would, if I were them. You have so much content. You have so many separate storylines and I mean they've done it a little bit, but I would literally get these feuds and package them into 25-minute, 30-minute, hour-long, 2-hour-long, depending on the thing. Package the feud into an episode. Watch an entire storyline in 30 minutes or an hour of television. Why you're telling me that they can't edit
storylines?
Yeah, well, of course, whether it be from the 80s, 90s, Ruthless Aggression, whatever it is, give me promos, give me some highlights of matches, and give me resolutions to storylines, and let me watch it in 30 minutes, an hour, however long it takes.
And even like add the matches and stuff in there too. Like you're talking about, So just
just give me some opening promos, give me their match, give me some promos, give me a match, and let me watch the storyline develop.
Like for example, like you could do something like you go back in time, like you put the whole story together of like how Undertaker and Shawn Michaels came about. Like that right there could be a 2-hour special in and of itself, just based on their entire history, going all the way back to the 90s and the first time that they fought it in your house, and then they fought at the Hell in a Cell, and then how Shawn Michaels' back got fucked up, and then you could jump forward to WrestleMania 25. You could build so much on old school content. But
I'm not personally. I'm sorry. I personally am not so sure, but you can get all that shit on YouTube right fucking now. You don't need to be watching that on WWE.
But I'm sorry. How many actual people know about that shit? And rather than the regular market, you're exposing that to a whole new market of people, and you're monetizing it in a way that you've never gotten that revenue out before.
But look, I just want to give my take on what WWE should do, which is none of what you guys are suggesting. Look, first of all, keep the wrestlers at home, and do content where they're at home on their fucking, do what Xavier Woods is doing with his up down down channel. Make them compete on video games. I know it sounds stupid and ridiculous, but make them look. Look, you can do little interviews, stuff like that. Keep it real, keep it grounded. Don't make it kayfabe. Just keep it honest, because everyone's at home. No one's going anywhere. Just do have little shows where
games do. The fact that
it doesn't have to be video game, but the point is that they have to do stuff like what we're doing right now, communicating through computers and stuff like that.
They do that with WWE backstage. Backstage is literally this. This is backstage.
I know that, but they can somehow create some sort of competition, some digital electrical competition, which could be fun.
They'll never do
fun, and you can relate it. No, but these guys are all in quarantine right now. It's better than doing. If you guys want nothing and not to, I like watching these.
Sam, they just canceled their yearly release for the first time since like '98. I'm pretty sure they don't want to bring any attention toward video games in them at all.
Yeah, that is also a good point. But I'd rather these guys stay at home and keep themselves relevant that way.
Excuse me, the proposals that we're bringing up are stay-at-home ones as well. You can edit it. You can edit a documentary from home. You can edit video from home.
I'm talking about using the wrestlers still in some capacity, because
you still do that shit, of course, yeah.
Vince McMahon hates giving these guys a day off for any reason whatsoever. Work them to death. That's his fucking motto. But look, anyway, I want to move on to this next thing now regarding this show. It's the Harts. Now, when I say the Harts, I mean not Martha Hart, but I mean people like Bret Hart, the Bulldog, Neidhart, that side of the family. I I was kind of surprised, and I wasn't shocked because I knew, but it did remind me that there was a split between Martha Hart and the rest of the Hart family. And I was kind of disturbed and upset and really annoyed that the Harts won't buy Martha on this one because they somehow still wanted the job. This is the company that 2 years ago, from that particular date of Owen's death, fucked over Bret Hart in a way they couldn't imagine. You know, the WCW was still going strong in 1999. And, you know, they should have. The fact, it boggles my mind, this tight fucking family. And for the sake of money and a job, they didn't stand by Martha. And you know, after Owen Hart died, and they let the fucking show run on after his death, all of this shit, and they never stood by her. I couldn't believe it.
And here's the crazy thing too. The fact, I don't know if you guys they didn't mention Larry King. They should have. But Brett was originally by Martha's side throughout all of this, like when it first started. But it turns out what Brett wanted his footage. He wanted to get the rights to, like, you know, his likeness and all that other kind of shit, because he wanted to, you know, kind of break away from WWE and have his own footage. And then he went to Vince after the funeral and, you know, basically fucked over Martha by being like, hey, you know, I'll work things out with you, but you have to give me my footage. That's something that never got mentioned.
I'm just shocked by this because, as much as you know, the money might mean something initially, at some particular point, I'm surprised that became such an issue for them when their son died, their brother died, you know, their husband, their wife, their brother-in-law, whatever, cousin. This person died, and on the WWE watch under McMahon's influence, and they didn't want to get retribution for that.
The fact that Vince fucking countersued Martha, what the fuck was that about?
Yeah.
That's what baffled me. I'm like, you're gonna countersue Martha because you don't want to pay for punitive damages if you take the shit etiquette. What the fuck?
I'm not surprised. We're talking about Vince McMahon.
Yeah, it's fucking
It's Vince McMahon, and we all know where he is. But for the Hearts, I want to stick with the Hearts on this one. Yeah. What do you guys think? I'll start with you, as you've been speaking, Jose. What did you guys think of the Hearts not sticking by Martha?
All because, you know, they don't want to burn bridges with Vince. It's like, here's the thing. Where is your fucking moral compass? Your son, your brother, husband, you know, whatever you are. You know, he passed away, and y'all are basically saying, all right, Martha, well, we're not here for you because we don't want to, you know, blow an opportunity with Vince McMahon. It's like, that's what just baffles me, is like, where's your moral?
Big time. You would have thought their hatred for McMahon was at such a level that this would have tipped it over the edge. You know, you would have thought it would have tipped them over the edge, but if anything, they went in reverse. Cheetah, what you got to say?
I mean, when I first heard this back in the day, it was very shocking because I always thought the Hart family was really close and they really, you know, but I mean, this business is their life. And it's kind of like, I'm trying to think of an example, and I'm just going to explain. I can't think of an example. You guys will probably think of one, but you know, it's like they probably did. They hate Vince McMahon, but the problem is that he's the Don of the wrestling world. So you kind of have to kiss the ring. And I'm not saying it's justified. I'm not even saying it's anywhere remotely justified what, you know, if they didn't support Martha. I'm just saying that's what it kind of seemed like, is like, look, we have to kiss the Don's hand no matter how much.
The carrot in front of your face. That's basically what was going on.
Well, but also it could destroy the whole Hart family. Yep. You know what I mean? Like it could literally destroy the Hart family in the wrestling business, and that's what they are. They are the wrestling business. So, right? No. Should they have sided with Martha? Yes. I mean, even they said some of them were actively against it, some of them were just silent, and some of them were with her. I think they all should have just been with her. You know, like they should have gotten justice for Owen Hart and what happened, because there was a mistake made, and Owen and his family deserved justice. I'm not saying like Vince McMahon should have gone to jail or anything like that. But a mistake was made. It should have been publicized. It should have been laid out for everyone to see. And honestly, Vince McMahon should have probably been removed as chairman of the WWE, because whoever made that financial decision, because if Martha's right, it was a cost-cutting measure, because the person who rigged Owen Hart up had no business doing it, and they could have spent the extra money to get a professional to do it. Whoever was responsible for that, whether it be Vince, whether it be Shane, whether it be the coordinator person, that person should have been fired and fined, and maybe even looked at jail time for, I don't want to say murder, but for neglect.
All it is, yeah, neglect.
And and it's all brushed under the rug because of the money. And it's, and even they said Vince McMahon tried to get the case to move to Connecticut. Just because of stipulations. I didn't really get a chance to hear what the stipulation was, but he wanted to move to Connecticut.
If the court case was done in Connecticut, they wouldn't have been able to get any money out of it because punitive damages.
Gotcha.
That was why.
So, but that's still like, if I were Vince McMahon, I would have you've got to have a pretty cold, dark soul not to want to take care of that Hart family, no matter what happens after what happened there. So, I don't know. That's just my thought process on it.
I did that with Eddie and Vicky, but I also want to bring up quick before I pass it on to you, Jericho. I want to quickly bring up that I think Bret Hart had a moment personally that 2 years in WCW was fucking shit, and there's nowhere else to go but back to the WWE, which is probably where he wanted to go, because WCW wasn't for him. He knew it was a fucking circus in that place. Hogan was running wild, literally, and I think that was one of the reasons that led to possibly them not going all at the WWE, but they still wanted to work there. I mean, there's not many opportunities. Vince McMahon bought all the fucking territories. There's no.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's the Don. Like, he's the Don of the wrestling world. Yeah.
Jericho, what do you think of the Harts not getting involved with Martha?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, some of them sabotaging her. It seems to me. I mean, obviously, you can't ever do anything in the name of somebody knowing exactly what they would have wanted. They're not here. Owen's not here. Owen can't tell you what he wants. But in my opinion, I don't have a brother. If my brother that I don't have died in a tragic accident, I would try to see some form of justice. And don't get me wrong. I understand that, like Bob, Cheeto's saying, that it's their livelihood and that's their job, and that that's the way they make their living. I get that, but it's like we've been saying. I mean, they literally betrayed their own brother. They betrayed their sister-in-law. They betrayed nieces and nephews. I mean, people that they've spent time with. Obviously, they know. You would assume that they care for. And you would think with a legacy like that, with the notoriety that they have, especially we're talking about this all as non-Canadians. We don't have any idea, the stock that they hold in Calgary. I mean, I would think that a family like that would be able to sustain themselves without the handouts of Vince McMahon. And in my opinion, it's not to say it again, but it's pretty morally reprehensible to not stand up for your own brother, for your youngest brother, your youngest one that you'll ever have, the last one you'll ever get. And, he dies a tragic death, then they kind of just, say their piece and move along. And
that's Stu Hart. It's Stu Hart. That's your fucking son, mate.
Yeah,
it's your baby boy.
Stu.
It's like Jesus. I was very much lost for words by all of that. It wasn't something I initially expected. I knew there was some sort of disagreements and stuff. Do you guys know how the family is now regarding Martha?
I I
might
think
have
they've
made up.
I think they've reconciled, but I don't think like
I mean, do
close or
they
anything.
sometimes? I'm not expecting them necessarily to be best buds, but do they sometimes get together for family occasions, all of that sort of shit? I mean,
I really
They came back, I know, for WrestleMania 26, so I know for sure they've reconciled, but I don't think they're close as they once were.
okay, I need to. I'm glad you mentioned WrestleMania, because there's something else I wanted to bring up. I did forget, but now I've been reminded. The Hall of Fame. Let's
Yes.
bring this one into this now. Yeah.
This is about debating this motherfucker right here because oh man, people are going to have different opinions, but my thought on it is, okay, as a fan, I think we all can agree, yes, we want Owen in, but if anybody has the right to say hell to the no, he ain't going in, it's his family. And I know Brett wants him to go in, and I know, people want him to be honored, but I can see where Martha's coming from, and I finally get it now. After all these years later, I'm like, I got to stand with Martha Hart on this one. I don't want him being honored by the same company that ended up causing his demise, unfortunately. Accidentally, granted, but yeah, I'm with Martha on this one.
Jericho?
That was one takeaway that I felt that I came from this, a lot. But like I said, this is coming from a state where I really didn't watch Owen growing up. I'm learning about this from a retrospective. I'm learning about this in hindsight. But growing up, you're always, especially just in the wrestling circle, you're always kind of looking at Martha Hart in sort of a negative light. She's always had the negative publicity as far as, whether it comes from the wrestling circles. She's always kind of held her take in, held her perspective in, and her opinion in until now. And when you only get one side bad at you, you kind of get a negative perspective of someone. But I mean, like Jose said, I mean, I don't know how you can allow a company that literally caused the death due to its own negligence of your loved one, and then allow that company to monetize him and probably, in your opinion, if you're from that perspective, exploit his his life and his death, literally exploiting his death that they caused. I mean, it's when you look at it from that perspective and you try to come from all sides, in my opinion, it's pretty easy to come to that conclusion. I think Cheetah wanted to say something.
But doesn't this documentary also exploit his death?
Oh, of course. I agree, but it's
not Vince McMahon getting anything from it.
No, and I agree.
Vince McMahon isn't getting anything, and yes. I would say that this is more about getting Owen's perspective and the Hart's family's perspective more in the public light without a WWE spin or a WWE bias on it, because opportunities like this do not come around often. You don't get, for wrestling to come into national prominence without the authority or without the authorization of WWE is a very rare thing. And I think taking advantage of it in this form of media is a very intelligent thing to do if you're Martha Hart.
I say if you're going to want to honor Owen, donate to the foundation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm like, that's where you go.
And
you go to his foundation, donate, and you honor him that way.
Not to kind of run over this whole thing, but I think if they can come to a conclusion, hey, we'll donate whatever it is. Maybe if you want to match a settlement, really make a significant thing. We're going to donate $12 million or however much it was to the Owen Hart Foundation because we feel like we didn't do enough, and we really want to, we want to make it in the name of Owen, and we want to bring, relevance to his name, all that kind of PR BS. If they want to do that,
even then 12 million, it would still end up being a big publicity stunt. I honestly would
absolutely. But I think what I'm trying to say is I think there's a middle ground of it happening. I understand Martha's and Harper's family's perspective, but I do believe that there is a middle ground because when obviously you're protective of your loved ones, but in a sense you're also robbing your loved one's legacy of wrestling to people like me who did not get to see him in the future. And the only way that people are going to get to see that is if stuff like this comes out, or if stuff from the WWE comes out about his life. And that's going to be more likely than stuff like this coming out.
Fair enough. Roberto, what would you like to say about the Hall of Fame and Owen Hart and not going in it ever?
Okay, so originally I was at 100% Owen needs to be in the Hall of Fame. Now
We all
I'm at
were.
about, huh?
We all were.
Now I'm at about 50%. And here's why.
Really?
Yes, because here, okay, so do I agree with Martha that Vince McMahon should not be getting a single solitary cent or publicity over Owen Hart? Yes. However, for the fans, like myself, like everybody else, I feel like he earned it. I feel like he deserves it. And honestly, it's that catch-22 where it's like, do I want Vince McMahon to get a single solitary cent or moment of publicity for the whole Owen Hart thing? No, absolutely not.
Nope.
I don't want him to get anything out of it. But then at the same time, the WWE Hall of Fame, although it is made up, every Hall of Fame is freaking made up. Every Hall of Fame is a bunch of, what do we say? We said in our chat, is a bunch of
Bullshit. Yep.
bullshit circle jerkers sitting there floating each other's boat. The Music Hall of Fame is, the Football Hall of Fame is, like, all it is these people within the same industry sitting there going, yes, very good, you've earned your right. Yes. And the thing is that with the Hall of Fame is that maybe the compromise, don't laugh, Sam, you know it's true. Maybe
It's true.
But I would have to say though that at least those other sports have a little bit more legitimacy than professional wrestling. It's a bit more of a difference when you're having legitimate competition on the field rather than the person who got picked by the one guy who runs the business to be on top.
And okay, hold on. We can get into a whole Hall of Fame discussion.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
But like with the Hall of Fame, it's just like, but it is celebrating a career. It is celebrating a talent, because you have guys in basketball, football, you've got, hockey, whatever. I don't know how many Hall of Fames there are, but like, I know I am not a sports person, but anyway, but this is celebrating their careers and celebrating and I mean, I get why, and I'm going to say the name. I get why Benoit's not going in. I understand that. Benoit had a storied career and it ended tragically, and he will never go into the Hall of Fame because of that. However, with Owen Hart, it's like, I think honestly, and here's my compromise, what I think should happen is the year that Vince McMahon steps down as CEO, as whatever of...
He will die. He will die.
Regardless of how he steps down, whether
no, it's not regardless. Like, he's gonna drop dead. He's gonna be in his office looking at that T-Rex fossil, and he's gonna have his eyes roll back in his head, and he will fall out of his chair onto the floor, and
tear both quads.
Kevin Dunn, and tear both quads. And Kevin Dunn or Bruce Pritchard or Linda McMahon or whoever the fuck is going to open that door, and they're going to be like, "Oh, today's the day." Wow.
Yep.
But anyway, when that happens, that is when Owen Hart should go in, because Vince McMahon will not get the satisfaction of him going into the Hall of Fame while he is an active part of the WWE or breathing. I honestly feel like that Vince, if they want to do it, I mean, it's muddy and it's complicated and it will probably never happen. But I think for the fans' sake, I mean, let me put it this way. If the WWE Hall of Fame just split off and just became the Wrestling Hall of Fame, I would be 100% for it. 100% without Vince McMahon's involvement. Unfortunately, it is the put him in the TNA Hall of Fame. I mean, don't they have a Hall of Fame?
Legend Owen Hart.
They did at least once.
What I will say on that note is, doing it for the fans. Let's be real here. Owen's been dead for 20 years. This happened 2 decades ago. How much of this is truly? I mean, even if we put Owen into a Hall of Fame, which we're all in agreement that it won't happen anytime soon, if ever. When this even does happen. You're talking about this for the fans and everything. Some of the fans that watched that shit back then are dead with him. They're dead too. And the relevance of him being in the Hall of Fame is going to be less as time goes on. And that's going to further go against the argument of putting him in the Hall of Fame, because with less relevance, why would you bring up the pain and the grieving of it?
I mean, I just think you could just think of him just as a wrestler, and then and not forget even though the other things will never be forgotten, but you could still put him in as a wrestler who deserves to be in there at some particular point. Even though there might be a generation or two who might not even know who he is, but nevertheless, WWE have done that before with old school wrestlers in the Hall of Fame who have no fucking idea who they are. You know what I mean? And Owen Hart will be that person for other generations.
Yeah, and I can understand that. Let me put it this way: it is going to do less good than harm at this point, and I believe the longer that we wait, the
I
further
agree.
that stays to be the truth.
Okay, now I haven't given my opinion on it, and I'm going to quickly give you my opinion. I personally don't give a shit about the Hall of Fame. It's a pile of bollocks, you know. And this particular show has confirmed it. There is no point in giving Vince McMahon the satisfaction of having this person in there because he led to his death, and Martha Hart can't deny that. You can compare this to people like Ultimate Warrior and other wrestlers who ended up being in the Hall of Fame. You know why they had problems with Vince McMahon? It was just about the fucking money, Lebowski. That's all it was. You know, this was a whole different particular matter. You know, you can pay these. Martha couldn't be paid off to get fucking Owen into the Hall of Fame, and I love that. You know, but it's not about the fucking money. You know, it's a and she sees through all the pageantry and all this bullshit. You know, as much as it might be glamorous to us, the older I get, the more fucking skeptical and not giving a shit about these sort of things. Comes to how I feel about this, and I'm really happy that Martha's taking the high ground. This is the right thing. Who gives a? I don't even, like I said, I don't watch wrestling anymore. You know, this is the right thing to do because you shouldn't be stroking Vince McMahon's ego. He's on a sinking ship, as far as I'm fucking concerned. So yeah, she's done the right thing, and I'm very happy. That if he never goes into the Hall of Fame ever, it doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. Like,
sorry, one more thing, Jose. Who knows about the Hall of Fame? Wrestling fans. Who knows about wrestling fans? Whether you're in the Hall of Fame or you're not in the Hall of Fame, you will be remembered by wrestling fans because those are the fucking people who remember you. No one ever talks about wrestlers saying, "Oh, this guy's been in the Hall." No one talks about Ric Flair saying, "Yeah, he's a two-time Hall of Famer." No one talks like that when it comes to wrestling.
WWE's the only company that talks like that. Fans
shit.
Go, oh, okay.
Yeah, no one talks about this guy's in the Hall of Fame. No one really that accolade is quite insignificant when it comes to wrestlers. What matters to us is, are they any good? And he was, and that's all that matters to me, not the Hall of Fame.
Owen Hart is one of the three most underrated guys to never win the WWF title because there's three guys. There's Owen, Mr. Perfect, and Scott Hall. Those are my three.
Scott Hall? I wouldn't put Scott Hall in there, man.
My God.
Title. Yeah, because he should have won the world title as Razor Ramon back in the day. But
definitely, yeah. Regarding deserving it as a good wrestler, he's nowhere near Mr. Perfect, man. Mr. Perfect should have been. I'll tell you another person who should have won it: Ted DiBiase. I mean, he bought it. He bought it, but he never really was the WWE champion. And honestly, Ted DiBiase should be a top heel. He never really was. He was like more of a mid card heel, which is kind of weird. You know, he should have been if you think about it, so I know we're going on a totally different tangent here, but I want to go on here. Ted DiBiase should have been like the Triple H level fucking heel of the 80s. And he wasn't.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the $1 Million Man buying everything, but they love to blow it.
Man. He could have fucking bought out Jack Tunney's spot as commissioner and been like,
well, yeah, I think they could have done that with him, but also, I mean, when you're comparing, I mean, let's be real. When you compare fucking Ted DiBiase and Ric Flair, I mean, there's just no fucking comparison. And I feel like when you have two of those figures, they're not the same, but they're very similar.
Woo! Yeah, I think the thing with Ted DiBiase as well, once he started letting him, because he was always quite a slender wrestler, and once he started letting himself go, there was no going back from it. Ric Flair, did keep himself in decent shape, right through his 60s, and even now. So, but that's how it goes. You see a lot of these 80 wrestlers, they all put on the pounds. Anyway, let's get back onto the topic here at hand. We've pretty much spoken about everything. Is there anything I've missed out that you'd like me to bring up?
I think we've actually pretty well covered it for the most part. I think, the thing with the Hall of Fame is, here's the thing. We may not have to like it. Martha's choice. We may not have to agree with it, but I think we're ultimately just going to have to accept it. That, it's like, this is the way it is. She don't want him going in. The kids don't want him going in. And, hey,
well, and that's the bottom line, too, is I don't think I mentioned. It is ultimately up to the fans. No, it is ultimately up to the family. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to sit here and say Martha's wrong. Her family's wrong. Like, I know as a fan what I want, but it's like, you know, what the family wants above all needs to be honored.
Yeah. It's time for fans to just, I think, let it go. I mean, you know, and people, get off of Martha. Stop calling her names. Stop being so selfish and harmful to her, because you see people calling her like, oh, she's being selfish. Oh, you know, she's a bitch for this and that. No one can say, none of us can say that we lost a significant other the way she lost her husband. None of us can say that.
Well said, well said. And how dare those fans, those so-called fans, because once Owen Hart died, I didn't think about fucking getting on Martha's case. It's none of my fucking business. You know what I mean? Just leave that family alone. Don't fucking get involved. It's none of your fucking business. You're just a stupid mark. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You know,
I mean, I always wanted Owen in the Hall of Fame, and I always thought it was weird that she didn't. But I mean, once I understood the situation more, you know, it kind of made sense. I'm like, okay, well, you know, it's not like you can be a selfish fan and be like, well, he deserves to be in there, so ergo she should let him be in there. No, it's a family decision, and she has legitimate reason. She does not want to give that notoriety and that prestige of Owen Hart being in that Hall of Fame, even though the Hall of Fame thinks they have all the prestige. They really, you know, with Owen Hart, it's like they don't deserve it. The fans deserve it, but the WWE doesn't deserve it. And unfortunately, it's not about the fans. I know that they're going to lose their shit when they hear that, but it's not about them.
This episode, in my opinion, was Owen Hart's Hall of Fame. That's how we should look at it. This episode was Owen Hart's Hall of Fame. That was his introduction. That was his ceremony. That was his Hall of Fame speech given to him, given by his wife. All of that, and his children. Because if his wife and kids don't want him in there, sorry, go on.
The fact that Owen is in the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame is enough for me. The fact that he's in that Hall of Fame, which is a, you know, legit Hall of Fame where they honor like wrestlers and, you know, they honor past pioneers going way back. That's enough for me. I'm like, if that's going to be the Hall of Fame that he's in, I'm cool with it.
I mean,
I think.
Sorry, finish your point, Jose.
I think that's just it. Is the fact that, you know, the fact that he's in like the New York Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. That's enough for me. I can live with that.
I mean, other than what we covered, I think we've touched all bases, covered all ground here. But there was one clip in the because there was a lot, and this was something that really got me, at least from this episode specifically, is there was so much more home video, and like footage from the Hart household, the Hart family, and I mean, I'm sure a lot of that had to do with interviewing, you know, Martha, or having all that documentation. But one of them that really got to me was they were somewhere and they were recording, and he was like, "Yeah, you know, I'm off to another to another day of work. I hope you know eventually one day I can be at home more often. These aches and pains will pay off, you know, in the future." And it's just completely depressing to watch that and know that the man was literally killed by the business that he was working for. And then
sorry, go on.
No, it's fine.
No, I was just about to say, you know what also got me as well, mate, was at that pay-per-view, you saw him as the Blue Blazer giving a quick promo, and I'm thinking, Jesus, I'm watching the last time he's talking here, you know, on live television. As the Blue
last
Blazer
time he was reported,
You know, and it was amazing that just in a few minutes, this guy's going to be dead. Seeing that, you know, it was like crazy.
And
here's what a lot of people don't know about that night. While that promo was actually going on, it was pre-taped. That was when he fell. While they were playing that promo.
Oh, it was a pre-tape. My bad.
Yeah, that was a pre-taped promo, and so that's why there wasn't any live feed of the accident. It was caught on camera, obviously, but there wasn't any live feed of it. Well, of course, yeah. I mean, that would be just devastating to show. And I mean, there are delays and all that kind of thing. I don't think that would have ever happened. But that was why it wasn't shown live. But what is available is on the Mexican commentary team after their table was smashed, I'm sure. I'm sure they were standing there, and they do have live commentary of what and when it happened. Um,
Yeah.
and that is available, and they react to it live. That was broadcasted live, and you get their reaction to it. Obviously, I mean, distressing as it is, but the only thing that I was going to wrap it up with saying is that I really wish, knowing all the things that have happened now, I really wish that it would have gone to a public trial, because I feel like it would have given Owen the justice that he truly deserved. Because, I mean, obviously that this is a one-sided documentary, and we have gotten one side from the WWE for years as well. But if this isn't negligence and just gross misconduct, and I mean, honestly, manslaughter or incidental homicide, however you want to call this, I mean, there was a crime that was happened here. You know, it wasn't heinous, it wasn't intentional, it wasn't
Definitely
deliberate,
manslaughter
but
charge.
there was a crime committed in that arena. The police did an injustice for not stopping the show. The company did an injustice for not stopping the show. I think the wrestlers did an injustice for not stopping the show. One of your co-workers and the people that you travel with across the country daily just died in the ring, and you're going to go there looking at his. I mean, the the mat was stained with his blood. There was a dent from the impact of his carcass hitting the mat, and they wrestled minutes later.
And it broke the fucking board too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's a dent from the man's impact of his death, and they're gonna rest. It's unspeakable.
Yeah, Vince McMahon has got a place in hell waiting for him. That's all I can say.
I've always thought, what would have happened if Owen Hart stayed alive? Like, if he stayed alive, would the whole Benoit thing, would have that ended up ever happening? Because they're Canadian, all of this, with his influence being alive.
That thing of, this goes back to like if Bret Hart never got screwed, like what if he would have stayed? What would have happened? We can speculate all day long, but man, like Jericho said, to kind of wrap this up on my end, imagine had Owen stayed here and had he been alive, the matches with Jericho, Perry Saturn, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, Kurt Angle, Jesus, all the talent that they had coming in a year later.
Christian, yeah.
Ed Christian.
He would be 55 if he was still alive now.
He'd be retired by now. He would have been retired by now.
And he would have been retired by like 03, I think. I mean, he wouldn't have even wrestled 3 more years, I don't think. I think he was pretty much done. And especially after the peak of the Attitude Era comes, you see the ratings dropping, you see the page dropping, all that. Yeah, I wouldn't have expected him to be there.
By the end of Ruthless Aggression, he would have probably retired.
Oh no, it would have been way before that. It would have been probably about a year into Ruthless Aggression. I think the most you would have probably got to see out of Owen is you probably would have got to see a documentary. He would have probably facilitated the talks between, Bret and Vince to bring Bret back sooner. That probably would have happened. But beyond that...
Oh, yeah. We might have actually gotten like a couple decent matches out of Bret.
Yeah. He probably could have gotten maybe something out of Bret. We don't know.
But we all know that he wanted to get out of the business early. But personally, things could have been different if he was still alive. Because, we never know what path his career might have taken. He might have still stayed in wrestling because he does know it very well and he's fucking excellent at it. And there's never to say that he would have just left at a particular point. It's only from the perspective of the fact that he's dead now. Who knows what would have happened if he was still alive? He even if he wanted to go into different things.
But he actually did want to retire early. If you go back and watch the Raws,
I know, I understand. But if he was successful, if he was making dollar. Yeah, and he was their number one guy, WWE champion, all of that shit, and he was becoming respected. And he would be very, and you can imagine Bret Hart having a chat in his ear saying, why would he want to give this up? And all of these things. So you just never know where things would take you. The fact that he's dead, is why we think he would have quit, because it seems like the right thing to do. Now he's dead, unfortunately.
But JBL was the one that revealed it on the Raw's Own episode. If you go back and watch it, he was like, Owen spending a month what we basically spent in a few days, and he took a lot of shit and ribbon from the guys from the road because he wanted to retire early. and spend time with his family. And I think what Owen would have done, I'm trying to remember the website. I think it's like Pro Wrestling Stories. If you go Google that and you Google like the Owen Hart story, his game plan was to get out and then only do like 10 weeks a year in Japan just to keep in shape, but mostly spend time with his family. That was what his original plan was.
It's the right thing. It's the right thing. It's a shame he had to die because, in my opinion, he was leading the way for how it should be. Because these wrestlers shouldn't have to be living on the road and missing the birth of their fucking kids and not watching their children grow up and taking it. This is ridiculous the way they operate. No wonder they die so young. And this is it's a lifestyle that is only a handful of guys, end up really achieving something from it. Everyone else having to still do stupid shoot interviews just to get fucking paid. It's a real shame. Now, I want to quickly, conclude this. By the way, Roberto, remember when we talked about like the top 5 guys who've transcended wrestling? You can name on one hand, and you said Savage. I would put Savage in the same sort of boat as people like Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Triple H. Not necessarily transcending, but very popular, and probably people outside of the business would have heard of. But the transcenders are Hulk Hogan, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and definitely The Undertaker. For sure, and I think maybe at one point, I think Cena will be there too.
Oh no, he's there. No, there's. Oh God, yeah, he's there, man.
The memes are real.
Okay, yeah. My bad. I guess I'm old. Okay, he's there. For sure.
Speaking of which, R.I.P. Randy Savage. Today's his 9-year anniversary.
Damn.
Well, he's wrestling
speaking of on that Cena note, he is actually younger than Rock was when he's like getting his, starting to get in Hollywood and shit. He's actually starting his career younger than Rock did.
Yeah.
So he could, I doubt it, but he could end up being, more successful than The Rock.
Yeah, possibly, but I think he's got into the Hollywood game a bit too old. I mean, he's starting to make movies in his fucking, early to mid 40s.
But did you not just hear what I said? He's doing this younger than when The Rock started. Rock started older than him.
No, The Rock was the Scorpion King in his 30s.
But okay, anyway, maybe it was like one thing that he did. Maybe what they might be doing. They might be.
You know how old The Rock is? You know how old he is?
Yeah, he's like
51.
Yeah,
and he's been in the movie game business for a long time,
like 20 fucking years now.
Well, what I'm saying is the only thing that may be caveat of this is they may be including his like WWE bullshit, like Cena's bullshit. So like they may be including all his fucking Marine movies that he's been making for goddamn 10 years. But anyway, the statistics that I had came across was that Cena has been making movies longer than Rock, or started younger than Rock was when he started.
I'm just saying that what Cena's making is not what The Rock's making.
Oh, of course.
WWE straight to DVD bollocks.
Hold on now. Fucking Rock made a Disney straight to DVD movie less than a decade ago. He made that fucking Tooth Fairy bullshit.
Yeah,
I think that was like 2011 or 2012.
It's still a Disney film.
That was in theaters, motherfucker.
It was in theaters, but it was terrible.
It was really? Okay, and that's the case. Then if it wasn't fit, it's a whole different matter. Because like most of the stuff Rock does is quite recognized. And he's done all types of genres as well, not just action movies.
And he was doing those kids. Yeah, he did kids movies. Rock did kids movies up until
weird drama as well and stuff like that. You know who's a bigger actor than him? You know what? There's one guy we totally forgot about. Fucking Batista. Much bigger than John Cena when it comes to being a recognized celebrity.
Oh, of course. Well, I don't know about recognized, but if we're talking about roles in acting, absolutely.
In Hollywood, he's bigger. He always gets forgotten about. It's weird in a way because I think he's a bigger movie star than he was a wrestler, even though he was a top guy in the WWE.
Well, I think it just shows that wrestling, isn't as big as it once was,
Okay.
Never will be again in my
Okay, guys. Okay, well, let's wrap this up now, yeah, fellas. It's been a really, really good discussion. If anyone's got anything more to say, please, here's your chance. Anyone?
I'm good.
Very good.
We have wrapped it up.
Very, very good. All right, then. Well, thank you very much for watching. We'll be back one day or soon enough talking about some bollocks. And please make sure you subscribe to Nerd Nation so you can watch that bollocks. Have a nice day, everyone. Goodbye.
Peace.
Prepare for more bollocks.